Coming up next on Sister to Sister, I'm here with my friend, our friend, Deb DeArmond. She wrote a book with her husband called Don't Go to Bed Angry, Stay Up and Fight All Night.
We're also going to talk about whether it's better to marry early or to wait. Ooh. I have an opinion.
And the best thing about marriage is ... Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to Sister to Sister. If you've never watched our show before, we are a group of women, highly intelligent, and I would say beautiful, beautiful girls, and we come to the questions and problems of the world from a biblical perspective. And today we're so excited to have our friend Deb DeArmond with us today. She's an author, and you'll meet her husband in a little bit. It's really great to have you.
Thanks, Kathy. I love being with you.
I'm going to jump into these questions because I think you'll like them.
All right.
And this one was directed to us by a viewer. So we love when you write us and email us questions. This one says, Dear sisters, I've fallen in love with an unbeliever. So what do I do? What do I do? Thank you for that question. Girls, what do we tell?
Well, the Beatles have a song called All You Need Is Love. But then there's this other song that says, sometimes love just ain't enough. And in this case, I think it's incredibly difficult to not just be on different pages, but in completely different books with someone on huge issues of faith, politics, children. If you're not on the same page for those things, I think you are facing incredibly hard issues. And God knows this. That's why God says in his word, don't be unequally yoked.
Right.
Because he knows the difficulty you're going to face if you are coming from two different directions. We're a strand of three with God, our husband, our wife, and God. How are you a strand of three when one of you doesn't have that belief? So I just think you're facing incredibly difficult future when you connect yourself with somebody that doesn't love the Lord.
She doesn't want to hear that, Corey. I know that she doesn't want to hear that. And that's tough. I feel for you. I really do. That's why people say be engaged a long time, or as Pastor Amy, as she counsels young people, don't rush into things. But what do we do for this? What do we do, Deb?
I say back off immediately, because I'm working with couples right now. A lot of times they'll missionary date. Oh, I'll date him, and he's going to come to the Lord, and he's going to be a great man of God. No, who you're dating, just plan on that being him for the rest of your life. Yeah. And I mean, dealing with couples now that have been married for years, that they were not equally yoked, and now it's causing such division. Even politically, they're not on the same page. Raising kids, they're not on the same page. So it really puts stress and pressure on your marriage future.
I just feel bad. Yeah. Anybody have anything good to say? No. It's all good, but...
I totally agree with you. I was giving the advice, don't ever date anybody that you couldn't see yourself being married to. And so from the beginning, unfortunately for this individual, she's already there. And so she has to ask herself, really, where does my heart belong? With this individual who doesn't know the Lord, or does it belong to God? Did I mean it when I said I gave my heart to Jesus? Yeah. It's tough.
It is tough. Flo, I know what you're going to say.
Well,
maybe.
Definitely, I think everybody has expressed it well. The only thing that I would add is that sometimes we need to examine, are we in love or are we in lust? And there's a difference. And I think love, if you are a Christian, is defined by godly character and godly principles. And so since God, our Creator, gave us instructions, and he has said that we should not be unequally yoked, specifically, he says, with the non-believer. Right. Then I think you would want to maybe take a look at that. Am I in love or am I in lust? Do I like what this person has, what they bring to me? Sometimes people like what the man has to offer. Is he financially stable? And I kind of like where it will take me. Does he move in a social sector that I like, you know? But I really think it's just not the wisdom of God, and it's something. You know my statement, ladies, you can't cry about it later. Once you say I do and enter into that covenant,
That's it.
You got some work to do.
You know, and I love what Amy said about girls are missionary dating. Well, if I love Jesus, then he'll love Jesus later too. So I encourage you to call the number when we put the number for prayer up on the screen, and someone will pray with you, or a trusted mentor in your life. And so it breaks my heart for you. It does.
Can I say one more thing on the flip side?
Heck yeah.
Just because the guy is a Christian does not mean he is your spouse.
That's true.
That is not the only criteria for being the right person that you're with. So I think a lot of times there's that opposite mentality where it's like, oh, I found a Christian guy or I found a Christian girl. It's, you know, meant to be. There's other things that need to be
Just because
in
they
alignment.
say they're Christian doesn't mean that
yeah,
they
exactly.
actually live it.
I can just see in my mind some mothers watching the show and saying to their daughters, oh my gosh, you have to watch the sisters and what they said, and Deb, what she said. But I'm going to go to the next question, and I know what you're going to say about this. Is it better to marry early in life or to wait?
Ron and I were 15 when we met, and we were 19 when we married.
Early.
We didn't date until we were 17, but truthfully, if we had been 20 when we met, we'd have been married within 6 months. We knew. We absolutely knew. There were too many places in our lives that synced up. Ron led me to faith. Now, I had grown up in a church, but never, I knew the stories, but I didn't know the storyteller. Never somebody
that's good.
suggested to me, it's important you make a conscious decision. And so he led me to the Lord the night before we graduated from high school, sitting in a parked car, and that's not usually what teenagers are doing.
That's for
In a
sure.
parked car. But I know that for me personally, it worked. Do I think it works for everyone? Absolutely not. I think this is so individual. But there were so many places that our life synced up. We knew it was the right choice. And truthfully, if I had ever gotten to be a full-grown adult, I'm not sure I could have made a space big enough in my life for someone else. Marriage is a merger, and the definition of merge is to carve out a space for someone else, for something else. That sounds like it might be painful. It's not easy. But we faced so many of life's important decisions for the first time together.
That's right, Deb.
And that gave us a level of connection that I am so grateful for. Is it true for everyone? Probably not.
I think it's definitely better to wait to get married than to marry the wrong person.
Yes.
I think that being said, but the flip side of that, I think people are waiting too long now. There's so many people that are just waiting for that perfect person, and newsflash, there's no perfect person. There really isn't. So I think that, you know, we're seeing the marriage age rise and rise and rise, and people not getting married because of that very thing. You become an adult, you don't have room in your life anymore for that other person. I'm personally grateful that I got married young. I mean, I was married at 22, and we got to learn to adult together. We got to become best friends, you know?
Amy, you were married young?
22, younger.
Yep.
And I think about what Paul says. If you're burning,
Yes.
if you know this person is supposed to be your mate. I mean, I'm watching this thing happening with these long engagements. I mean, I'm thinking that's just the worst. It's this burning, this passion. If you know it's God, then do it. Get married early. You don't have to wait 10 years or 5 years or. You know, so it depends on the guy and the situation.
A lot of times that wait's all about having that perfect day. Get over it.
That's
They're
right.
spending more time preparing for the wedding than for the marriage.
Yep.
And that's doomed to fail. When you set yourself up that it's got to be perfect and every day after that will be perfect, you're in for a big surprise.
Right.
That's why I strongly believe maturity versus chronologically is a more important factor.
But I think also if you're not married and you're younger and you're getting older, don't be nervous because God has the perfect person for you. And you just have to be patient and seek His will for you. And that right person will be there. Are they magic? Is it magic? No. But believe me, God has someone for you. I know young people, 24 years old, and they're so nervous they're not married. Don't be nervous. God's got someone for you. And God had someone for me. And young. And when with a motorcycle and a black leather jacket, and he was so bad that he was the coolest thing ever, and he's still bad to the bone and so cool. He's the best thing that ever happened to me. And so when I say the best thing about marriage, in my case, 42 years, the best thing is forgiveness. That's the word of the day. What do you have? The best thing about my marriage is?
The best thing about my marriage is getting to live and do life with my best friend.
Yeah.
I just think I wake up and be like, yes, like I really like this guy. Not just love him, I like him. I enjoy being around him. I love to talk with him about everything. It's great.
You're equally yoked.
Yeah.
Amen. What do you got?
I think for us, it's that we learn something from one another every single day. We spend time talking together. We spend time in the Word together. And when you're open to learning, then life is new every day. It never gets old. And we've been married 41 years.
Well, he's coming on next. I'm going to ask him about that, learning from each other every day. Corey, what do you have?
I mean, it's along the same vein as what the lady's already said. He's my ultimate iron sharpener, really. We talk about iron sharpening iron. My husband is the ultimate iron sharpener. He knows me better than anyone, and he loves me anyway. And he can be honest with me, and I can trust in that. And we just have fun together. It's just, it's your best friend. It really is. It's the hardest, but most awesome thing ever.
Yeah, and it's hard sometimes.
It is.
Yes.
And Miss Flo.
Well, there are days that I don't really feel like my husband is my best friend. I mean,
You're so honest and so real.
It's the truth, you know. And I love what everybody is saying, but the fact is that there are days that you encounter that is not how you feel. And so for me, one of the key things has been understanding covenant versus contract, understanding that I've entered into a covenant with God about this person for the rest of my life. So if it wasn't for that, there would be times I would have walked away. I'm sure there would have been times he would have walked away. There would have been times I wouldn't have been willing to put on the gloves. I wouldn't have been concerned about the rules of engagement. It'd been about the rules of exit.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh, and that's why it's really important for you to be equally yoked. If you listen to the wisdom of Flo, which we do, you know that having God at the center, Corey said it, it's a 3-strand cord. Stay right there. We have lots more Sister to Sister when we come back. Hello and welcome back to Sister. And when you see this panel, you're going to say something's different, and that is true. Because Deb's husband Ron is with us, and you two wrote an amazing book, which I have enjoyed. We did a little pre-research on this.
Good.
And thank you for being with us. And I have a question for you. You write about, honestly, I'm going to read this because it's really good. You talk about the rules for intense fellowship. Intense fellowship. What do you mean?
Well, in the beginning of this whole thing, we just kind of said there's rules, and this young wife said, "Whoa, hold it! There's rules for arguing," and so it was.
There better be.
It was something we had, but it was just kind of, we didn't realize how impactful it was. How many people argue without rules? Simple stuff. Just one of the few things was, if you argue in front of your kids, come back to them and reconnect with them and let them know that we're okay and we're okay this way. And they heard the arguing. And to say to them, we're okay, we have dealt with this, and we want to bring you into the forgiveness part of this thing.
Would you forgive us for troubling the peace in the house? And as adult men with children of their own today, they've said, that was one of the most important things I learned.
That is so good, because people don't do that.
Oh, no. And then the enemy has something to work on them with. Your parents are not good. Your parents are going to get divorced. They put fear in your children. It's important to close that loop.
Oh my gosh, I just pray that the people watching us heard that and put that in their heart. Thank you. That's really good.
welcome.
Yeah.
I had a question earlier about what we would want somebody to tell us about marriage before we got married. That would have been one for me. Yeah.
Some of the other rules are we don't use the D word, divorce. We don't throw it around. Once it's out of your mouth, it takes on a life of its own, and it hangs there. No one at our home is allowed to get in the car and drive off. It's not good for the driver or the rest of the people on the road. And probably one of the most important is either of us can call time and say, I need 20 minutes. I need an hour. I can feel myself getting upset. I need to process, and we come back at it. But it takes some of the wind out of the sails.
So who made up these rules?
Well, we kind of did through experience.
They just evolved, Kathy.
Okay.
We didn't sit down and decide on them. And frankly, we recommend that couples discover what rules are important for them.
That's good.
So, chapter 6, I think it is, you talk about communication traps.
Yep.
It's silence, sarcasm, I gotta look. Sulking and sound.
Sulking
Okay.
and
So
sound.
I've definitely used all 4 of those to get my own way, and sometimes it worked. But you call it out for what it is. You call it manipulation.
It is.
And you offer a way to deal with it. It's an acronym, DEAL. So how do we deal with manipulation?
Well, the D stands for don't take the bait. Nobody knows you like your spouse does and knows where that soft spot is, and we're not above using that in the heat of the moment. Explain the impact of the behavior. Sometimes people have done something that they didn't know was going to upset you or hurt you. Ask a lot of questions. Find out, how did this happen? How do you think that made me feel? How do we bring this back together? And the last one's the toughest one. Let it go. It's that song that runs through our heads all the time. And let go of your need to manage your spouse. Manage yourself. That's tough. That can be tough.
Oh, I hope they heard that one too. Don't try to control and manage your spouse.
I've tried. It's not.
It doesn't work.
No.
And he's such a teddy bear.
He is.
You know, you have another acronym too, and I'm going to read it so I get it right. And it is SPEAK. Speak.
Yep.
Give me the scoop.
Well, we want in the midst and the heart of confrontation and conflict is seek permission to talk. Don't assume when I walk in from the door from work that she's ready to engage in this or that I'm ready to engage. You know, that it's like, hey, can I talk to you about this? So it is seeking permission and really asking it, and then talk about the issue. And that's that. Don't go to bed angry. There's emotions in it, but let's talk about the real issue in the thing, and then exploring the solutions, acknowledging.
It is.
Yes, and the A is acknowledging what you hear, and then the K, most important, keep it on this current issue. Don't bring up stuff.
Oh, you
well, remember
always.
last week.
You never. You always. And it's so tempting because it's your arsenal. And if you're trying to take that person out and make them a loser, you're on your way. But you don't want to be married to a loser, do you? Especially not one you created.
No. And then you said another acronym, FINE. FINE.
And
Yeah, I
that's
don't know anything about that.
FINE stands for feelings inside, not expressed. And it's tamping them down and tamping them down and tamping them down. People have mistaken quiet in the house for peace in the heart. Not the same things. Because eventually, like an ugly jack-in-the-box, it's going to just pop right up. We knew someone who was married for 18 years and could have said, in all honesty, we've never had any conflict. Well, his wife was keeping score. And after 18 years, she said, I don't love you anymore. I want a divorce. And there was no changing that mind, but she had evidence that she had documented of all the insult and all the injury over the years. You gotta get it out. You gotta get it out.
All right, now you mentioned that song that we all love, Let It Go.
Yes.
Why do we find it so hard to let things go? Why is it so hard?
Well, I can speak for myself. I have an inordinate need to be right.
Oh my gosh,
It's a sickness.
Okay, it's not the best part of me. But being self-aware that that's who you are, I'm grateful he cannot hear all of the conversations in my head. But we don't let it go because we weren't satisfied with the outcome. And so sometimes we stop arguing, but we simply withdraw. And it never gets resolved. It's gonna come up again. And so we've never really let it go because it never really got solved.
Wow.
You know, Deb, my question has to do, and I think will shed some light even for some couples who are kind of considering living together versus being married. What is the difference between covenant and contract?
I'll let Ron take that one if it's all right with you. He does a good job with this one.
Well, and we know that in the heart of our relationship with the Lord, it's a covenant relationship. It's way deeper. Jesus took the marriage subject back in Mark 10 back to Genesis and said, we need to leave our mother and father and cleave and become one. And the contract doesn't talk about becoming one. It talks about two people doing this thing. And a covenant has that blending and the power in it to make two things one. And that's what we're called to. So we realize the contract says it's just two people getting married, but the covenant part is it's two people becoming one.
How about
That's
the
right.
contract too, you know, with the stipulations, if you
Right.
do this,
Right.
this, and
Right.
this, and if you don't do this, and this gives me permission to exit out.
Absolutely.
We live in a love relationship with the Lord that's unconditional. But now we have conditions. Yeah, doesn't
Well,
work.
like what you said about the living together. People think that it's just a piece of paper, the marriage thing. So it's just a contract. It's not a covenant. So that bodes well for people who are living together. It's not cool. Yeah. It's not cool.
Your contract is based exactly what you said. If you do this, then I do that. When you think about God's covenant with us, it's, as Ron said, unconditional. I give all. I give all. And a contract is a legal document, and it only serves to punish those who don't operate within the confines of that contract.
That's right.
There's a lot of punishing going on out there.
Yeah, they're so
And a covenant gathers in and includes, and a contract excludes. No, that wasn't covered in the contract. It's not covered. I never agreed to that. So the difference between the two is powerful.
Yeah.
I like what you said about not only arguments, but in marriage. What if we realized that we were accountable to God? Wouldn't it help our marriage or working through conflict or arguments also?
Yeah, you know, we say don't fight in front of the kids. How about don't fight in front of the Lord?
Amen.
I mean, his opinion is pretty
Like he's
important.
watching, yeah.
And we said earlier, it's about, for us, it's about honoring this relationship and this relationship.
That's right.
He was the author and the designer of marriage. My bet is he knows a lot about it, and that the best way to achieve that is to follow him.
Amen.
Right.
I love that you guys put a story in here about fighting after church.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Why does that always happen?
On the way
Why
to,
do
on
we
the way home.
always do that?
Oh, I've lost a lot of sunglasses with those arguments. Just throw
Twisted
them
him
out the
half,
window.
tossed him in the back seat.
Well, let me have that book one more second, just so you all know if you're watching. This book is Don't Go to Bed Angry, Stay Up and Fight. And what I love about it is that you did research. People had input so that the answers and the discussion in this fabulous book with God as the center of marriage is a really good read for all of you out there too. And stay right there because we are going to wrap up this show, and we're happy that you're with us. There's a number at the bottom of the screen. Someone will help you, maybe not with your marriage, but with prayer. See you in a minute.
We always like to end the show with a scripture, and today's scripture comes from Amos, the 3rd chapter, verse 3. Can two people walk together without agreeing on the direction? I don't think so.
Ooh.
They'll get someplace, but they're probably not going to end up in the same place. If you want to end up in the same place together with the person you love, seek the word, spend time in prayer, and talk it out.
Oh, I love that. And that's what, that first question that we had about being unequally yoked. So this speaks to that, yes?
It does. Very, very difficult. If I want to go west and you want to go east, we're going to get someplace, Kathy. But I'm not going to see you there.
So all the people that answered your question, so tell me about that.
Well, we asked a lot of people to participate in our survey, and people were very candid. They shared a lot of information with us, sometimes TMI almost. But what we learned is that communication's at the heart of the majority of the issues that come up for married couples. And if you don't communicate well, everything else is going to be difficult right behind it.
Right, and these were Christian couples?
We did 2 surveys, actually. We did a group of Christians and then those with no faith affiliation. And guess what we learned? There really wasn't a big difference in the things that people fight about and the things that break up happy relationships.
Oh, that's surprising to me, but what is not surprising to me is that you've tuned in to our show. We are Sister to Sister, and we come to you every week with this kind of wisdom. And we also end with this scripture: as iron sharpens iron, so does the countenance of a man, or in this case, a sister, sharpen the other. See you next time.